Logo, and I'm going to tell you shortly about the program I used to work in for the 3 years, which is called EU Eastern Partnership Culture and Creativity Program. We have been working for 3 years in 6 countries of Eastern Partnership: Ukraine, Moldova, Belarus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. So today I will be speaking more about all 6 countries as a region, not about Ukraine specifically. We had, this was a capacity building program which was running for 3 years, and we have done a lot of amazing things, I believe. We were working with governments, we were working directly with the sector developing in, and one of our missions was actually to explain the role of culture and creative industries and what it can bring for society and for the economy. And as our colleagues have mentioned today, here in Europe, maybe we understand it a little bit more, why it's important. We have a lot of great examples and cases from Germany, from Sweden, from Italy, from Spain, from a lot of countries, and from UK, for example. But in Eastern Partnership countries, unfortunately, 3 years ago when we were starting, there was almost no one who was speaking about creative industries, and almost no one who believed in the huge power of it. So one of our mission was actually to promote the role of culture and creative industries, and I believe we managed to do it at least at some level. So, for example, we were really trying to encourage the public-private cooperation. I think this is one of the most important parts for today, because we have a lot of representatives of our program as a result of our activities. For example, we had a Creative Armenia forum to discuss how the Armenia can develop its strategy into building stronger creative industries. There was an Azerbaijan Creative Industries Forum, which was one of the most challenging events we had to organize. I think you understand some contextual issues that influence on that, but really there we managed to tell the government how important creative industries can be and how they can work with it. There was also a very interesting event that took place in Tbilisi in December 2016 that was called a Creative Industries Forum, and it was regional for all 6 countries. We were happy to invite representatives high-level representatives from the governments of all 6 countries, and what we did at that event, we signed the Tbilisi Manifesto, so-called, when all the governments of all 6 countries signed the official strategy for developing culture and creative industries in all 6 countries, promising that they will include creative industries in their national strategies. And we were working a lot with national governments in every specific country, trying to find the best approach for each specific environment. And there are now creative industries in the strategy in Georgia for Culture 2025. There is the same approach for Ukrainian strategy. Moldovan government is now working hardly on developing it, so I hope there will be even more exciting outcomes after our program finished. We not only had an active advocacy campaign, let's say, which explains the role of culture and creativity in these countries in the region, but also we had hard side of our program, which was developing the reports and creating some background of researches and data which may be used then in those countries by their governments, but also by the sector, because one of the main challenges for the region was that there is almost no specific data on what is the role of creative industries and culture, how they contribute to development of the economy and society. How can we calculate this? For that we took different approaches. For example, we made research based on UNESCO approach, cultural development indicators, if you heard about that. And after that, countries and representatives of the sector realized what is the role of it. They realized that there is also data. They now have access to it, and now they can build a strategy on it. And now they can sell, let's say, the role of culture and creative industries for those who haven't heard about it before, because now they have specific numbers explaining, okay, in Ukraine, culture and creative industries bring 4.5 input to GDP. And also we had 6 creative industries reports. I invite you to visit our website. And you can, if you are interested in those reports for every specific country, you can find them all at the website. They are available in several languages, in national languages of each country, but also in English and in Russian. So you can read them all. They are accessible. And in those reports, by the way, they were produced by the European expert Cristina Farinha, and they described what should be done in each country, taking into consideration their realities and ecosystems. And if our program was working mostly with the creating preconditions part of the developing the creative industry strategy, those reports show how countries are on the different stages of the development, and they need a bit different approaches to develop creative industries. But there are still some common things, common challenges in all the region that we managed to find, and I would like to share them with you. This is more like an action step for each of us if you work in the region, in Ukraine, in Moldova, and all these countries. What should we do as governments and representatives of the sector to develop the creative industries in this region? First of all, there is sometimes not enough audience development in the countries, and sometimes there is not enough demand from people to get these creative products. They still need to be aware of how valuable this may be for them, and we need to work on that. There are a lot of issues connected with access to finance, but I will not talk a lot about it. I think there were some interesting panels yesterday about this as well. There is definitely some issue with the professional management, because in the region not all creative industry sectors have strong background in terms of how to create businesses, how to create strong business models, how to create the value chain that works, and really need to work on that furthermore. There is one interesting point which I think is one of the most crucial for the region. This is about international networking. As my colleagues mentioned, we really need to hear the success stories and good cases from other countries and from EU, and for the region this is really important. We were hardly working on bringing European experience to the region, but also bringing regional experience to EU, and we also brought a lot of experts to each of the country and tried to connect them. We also organized a lot of study tours to European countries so that people could establish real working relationship and create new cooperations and new interesting projects. And now, for example, with Poland, there are a lot of organizations from the region that after our study tour continue working together. And I think this may be one of the most important things, creating this connection, creating this networking between the region and EU, and this can bring a lot of value to developing the creative industries. I think I will stop at that point. If you will have any questions about the program itself, you can contact me, and I think on that we can continue.
Okay, thank you very much, Irina. Thank you very much. So, an European perspective on EU-funded projects from Ukraine. So, thank you very much. A creative intervention. Even the template you said it wasn't very creative. The last, but I have to say, not the least, the presentation, Mr. Cezar Grozavu, currently Executive Director at the Regional Office for Cross-Border Cooperation, Romania, Ukraine. So, what is your perspective on the cross-border cooperation between Romania and Ukraine?
Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to provide a short presentation of what is creativity in harsh environment, not in a relaxed environment, as my previous speakers mentioned till now, because we are facing, in fact, the challenging of cross-border cooperation with Ukraine. And Ukraine is a huge challenge in terms of safety and security and lack of expertise and things like that. All of us know about the problems regarding the open conflicts in Ukraine, yes, and unsafe environments in many areas. So that is a challenge from us in terms of creativity and challenging in transforming these problems in solution. Ordinary travel on our borders took between 3 and up to 18 hours, or make in terms of lack of mobility. Imagine how difficult it is to manage programs or projects when the hryvnia is falling down in terms of the valorization. But all this challenging for our perspective Yet we assume adequate answer, and for that reason we are finance different security and the border measures of protection. We are financing different events and through people-to-people cooperation. Now we have successful projects in terms of gastronomy events in the Delta, folk festivals in Bukovina, different, let's say, large-scale infrastructure projects related to new road infrastructure, new border points, in order to establish a baseline for future cooperation. As in order to be more, which is now the most creative industry in the area. Well, it's a joke, but not only a joke, it's a cigarette trafficking, because they are using from planes to cars to gliders and things like that. So these are the challenging on the eastern side of the borders, but these problems do not stop the community to collaborate, to establish partnership, and as results, we successfully help more than 25 official partnerships to be signed. Next week we're gonna have the final deadlines of the application. The expectations are very high, and that is the reason why we are interested to disseminate best practice study from western side to eastern side in order to increase the visibility and make all the necessary premises for a future development of the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grozavo. So, in order maybe to achieve all goals put by the organizers in the description of this panel, we have also to ask the question how to support creative industry on local and regional level. So, for 1 minute, 2 minutes, the question is if you could maybe identify top 3 problematic issues in your entity, and where should local, regional, national governments interfere in order to overcome these issues, if it's possible, yes? For 1-2 minutes. I will start with, I don't know.
I can start. I think I partly answered this question in my presentation. That was one of its aim, actually. So if to choose only 2 or 3 issues, I would say that as my colleague mentioned, bringing expertise and good cases from Western Europe, from EU in general to the region, if you talk about Eastern Partnership, this could be one of the most valuable things we could do. But also it's about integrating cultural and creative industries into the national strategies and local strategies. For example, strategies for developing the creative cities and regions. In our program we also had such initiative, and we developed a roadmap and handbook for small cities and towns of countries of Eastern Partnership, and how they can promote, how they can build up their creative potential, how they can develop it, how they can create added value for the tourists, for the city, for the citizens, and etc. And this can also be a focus for local governments to find what can be developed locally, not from the national level, and how they can take the creative industries and put it in their local strategy when they talk about the economic development of the city and the region, social development, and all of that things.
I would say that there are 3 key issues that local, national, and state must take care of when it comes to creating creative industries, and that is actually that you need to have education, you need to have economy, legislation for doing these kind of things. But one thing that we actually can start very easy with, because all these 3 things, they are in different levels comparing to which country you are, then you have different aspects how you look at it, because in higher economy countries, then you have the possibility to be more mild in some legislations. You have the possibility to actually share more of the common economy to certain aspects and so on. But in general, you can say that actually networking is one of the most key things that actually our, for example, regional agencies and regional development agencies actually can share, because that is something that you can learn the good practice and the best practice from each other.
But in the education field, for example, what should be done in order to support creativity? Less rules, I don't know. What should be done in this field?
In education, it is also very much of best practice. For example, if we take about gastronomy that we are normally working with, you need to actually facilitate and be able to share what a client, what a customer really wants to have. Because that is actually the key thing. Because if you don't are able to take care of your customer, if you're not able to promote your things, then you can't take that customer either. Because then you have the customer for once and then you will not have that customer again.
So education and training as well.
Yes, very important.
I totally agree with education. Talking again about music, it's not only, that's what I feel is important, it's not only looking at the big best practices. There are often easy ways to tackle problems or to create and support the creative industries without spending a lot of money. For example, in music education, obviously in Sweden you have an amazing program from the government. But there are little programs in smaller places where you can take the musicians that you have in your place that teach younger kids, and you just promote that like on the level of what you have. So what we always say is like there's so much already there in creativity in places that that's often not recognized. And I think this is the first step in supporting your creative industries, seeing what you have. And then supporting this. Obviously best practices is important, and we have like a lot of networks between cities and regions that help each other. But often it's just looked at this far best practice somewhere in the Western society, whatever. But often it's really easy to take, the creativity that's already is there, and there are often smaller associations or artist communities that already do a lot in a place, but that are often not recognized from the government level, that should be supported.
Okay, thank you very much. Left side and right side of the panel.
I totally agree with this dimension problem, because we always talk about creative industries as a whole. But there is on the one side the industry dimension, but also the small dimension of creative entrepreneurship. And here I think we have some problems now, because many artists, entrepreneurs are really struggling in a very competitive market with low funds, and in some cases they don't have entrepreneurial skills. So I totally agree that we should look also at the small dimension and to education and training as a central activity. And here in Italy we are working very much on this with the help of bank foundations, which are activating a number of new granting schemes that are subject to a selection process on the project creativity. But then to access the funds, you need to have a training to develop your entrepreneurial communication or marketing skills to access all the full program, and this at a regional level. Because on the other side, for the industries, the creative industries in many Italian regions, creative industries are already in the smart specialization strategies, so they are following different paths, and small entrepreneurship is something different, I think.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ruzano?
Thank you for the opportunity. The creativity can be in a good or in a bad way, can take count of the borders or not, but it's important to disseminate the best practice and to encourage young people and open their minds. It doesn't matter the nationalities.
Oh, in fact, it's what we are doing here. We share best practices among us. Julio, would you like to say something at the end? Maybe to...
Yes, I think we have a huge goal also, and we are also a border city and a border country, but our border is the Mediterranean. And to add value to our creativity, we need to include all this multicultural identity of the ones that are coming and have been coming for the history. And so in our case, most of the people bringing their culture, they are from Morocco, but also we have many people from Africa, the whole country. So we try to include some of this rich culture in our strategic planning. And I think this is common for everyone. I mean, every country, we have our own identity, but we enrich our identity, bringing others. So I think this is a very good point. Now we are talking about learning one from each other, and it is not depending that one is more advanced to the other. We are always need to be learning and include the best practices of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrea? 30 seconds.
The Romanian case is that creative industries are very dissipated and they don't have a stronger voice in order to change the governmental laws and to apply to them a different tax law or a different regulation. So in my opinion, in Romania, for Romania, it's very important to find a way in which they can create a cluster, because clusters work, they have a stronger voice, they can lobby more to their politicians, and they can really make a stronger case for themselves.
Thank you very much, Andrea. So, unfortunately, I think we have to end here, but certainly the discussion might continue during the coffee break. So, I would like only to say that I thank you very much to our speakers, participants, and certainly the creativity will remain the main issue of the 21st century and maybe the main engine of economic growth in the